I realized once again that Sion had become a hero, and for some reason, it felt incredibly strange. Amidst the joy of Sion's return, there was a sense of unease, as if something was missing. Back in her room, Layla tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Why am I like this? Is it because I've been on the run for too long? No. If that were the case, things would have felt different before I arrived here. Something strange has been happening ever since I arrived at the ducal manor, especially after seeing those servants. Layla suddenly jolted. Huh, the servants? I guess it's because of Wynnum and Mary. Layla's heart ached, because she hadn't been able to contact them in so long, and she only occasionally got updates about Saint and Sir Taylor from Cecile. But I guess I still feel a bit empty without those two around. I have to write them a letter tomorrow. Even if they can't come here, we can still meet. And so, the next morning she actually sent a letter. To Hindaga, oh no, to the Marquis Byton's estate. The butler respectfully took the letter. Yes, I understand. She thought, it's a good thing Marquis Byton is their new master. Since he has a reputation for being a good person, Mary and Wynnum are probably a good fit for them, right? The butler standing nearby gently voiced his thoughts. Lady Layla, I know this may be an unnecessary worry, but what about rewriting the envelope? As Carrick explained his concern, if you use your family name, Hindaga, the mail carrier might just throw the letter away. If it's too much trouble, would you like me to replace the envelope and send it on your behalf? Layla thought for a moment and realized he was right. You have a point. Then I'll leave it in your hands, Carrick. He bowed respectfully. Of course, Lady Layla. If you need anything at all, please just call for me. After the butler finally left, she quietly tightened her grip on the quill. Her mind was racing. Come to think of it, I can't use the Hindaga name anymore. Whenever most people see the name Hindaga, they immediately think of a traitorous family. I'd forgotten that I'm the only one who was saved, all thanks to Saint. Now, I'm not a Marquis's daughter, nor am I a traitor. I'm just a normal 20-year-old girl named Layla. Sir Taylor is a knight in this estate, and Sion is its master. So then, she sighed, what am I? It was then that Layla vaguely realized, now I understand. The moment we walked into the castle and everyone bowed to Sion, I recognized that feeling. Subconsciously, I realized that in this mansion, she was completely useless. She clutched her head and frowned. I'm no longer a Marquis's daughter, the one who could give Saint anything he wanted. Instead, I'm completely dependent on Saint for everything, from the food I eat to the clothes I wear. What right do I even have? Layla staggered to her feet. I can't just keep being indebted to Saint forever, but at the very least I shouldn't become a burden to him. She told herself, I have to do something. Just then, Maddie was busy working in the storage room when she suddenly stopped and looked toward the door, right as Layla arrived. Maddie, do you have a moment? She nodded respectfully and replied, Of course, my lady. Please, tell me what's on your mind. Layla clasped her hands together, shyly voicing her request. There's something I'd like to ask you. Could you teach me how to do some work? Maddie was a little stunned. Pardon? Why would you want to do something like that? Layla stated plainly, I'm not a young lady anymore. Ah, no, that's not right, she thought. I need to be more careful with my words now, this is getting more and more awkward. She reminded her, Please, could you speak more quietly? My lady, she nodded shyly and corrected herself. No, I am no longer a lady of the nobility. You can just call me Layla. Yes, but the woman still wouldn't agree. Miss Layla. About the servant's work, Layla added. Just drop the Mrs. part. I can't do that. Maddie firmly refused her request, adding, I cannot fulfill your request. Helping her learn the work of a servant was out of the question. Layla became flustered and panicked. She explained, But why? I sincerely want to become a servant, and I'm not a noble anymore, am I? Because Miss Layla is currently a guest at the Duke's mansion. Those words were like arrows piercing her heart. I can't possibly assign tasks to one of my guests. The woman bowed her head, rejecting the idea. I am truly sorry, Miss Layla. But she didn't show her sadness, merely turning to leave quietly. Not at all. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. I'll be on my way then. The door slammed shut right after Layla left, and she stood there stunned for a moment. A guest at the Duke's mansion? Does that mean I'll have to leave someday? At that thought, Layla's heart ached as if it were torn. This hurt more than realizing she didn't know what was happening to her. She was only stating the obvious, after all. After thinking for a while, she started to pull herself back together. Moving to another room, she thought, It's okay, there's still hope. I've only been rejected once. Someone somewhere has to teach me how to work. Her next destination was the kitchen, where the chef was a bit stunned. You wish to learn how to cook? He took off his chef's hat. Of course, I can teach you. But wouldn't you prefer embroidery or playing an instrument over cooking? Layla confidently thumped her chest. I'm not learning this as a hobby. I want to work in the kitchen. What? This reasoning made him clutch his head in disbelief. Calm down a moment, my lady. She frowned and reminded him, It's just Layla. He scratched his ear and then rejected her idea. Yes, Miss Layla, but I can't have you working in this house. I think everyone here feels the same way. The onlookers shared the same thought. A lady working in the kitchen? But Layla tried to change his mind. The chef thought to himself, I think that's a very admirable thing. But he still bowed his head in refusal. Thank you for saying so, but I still cannot teach you how to work in the kitchen. I am very sorry, Miss Layla. After that, he quickly turned and left to avoid any further awkwardness. Well then, I must go prepare for dinner now. Layla's heart sank to rock bottom. Even the kitchen had rejected her. You want to tend to the horses? The man shook his head frantically. Whoa, absolutely not. Yet another place had turned her down. The stables, too. In the library, the librarian also shook his head and waved his hands, politely refusing. You say you want to be a librarian? Someone like you, Miss Layla, should just be reading the books. The library, too. The purple-haired maid also hesitated, disagreeing. I'm sorry, Maddie would definitely. Outside, a servant hanging laundry just repeated the same things as everyone else. I'm so sorry. Sorry. After a while, all Layla got were apologies, and none of them were of any help. She could only trudge back dejectedly, not realizing every place she went would turn her away like this. Are there any other places left? Just then, the night tailor appeared cheerfully. Lady Layla? He walked over, falling into step with her. Where are you headed? But her mind was in turmoil, so she just mumbled a reply. Just walking. Taylor glanced at her, hazarding a guess. You're not lost, are you? She frowned back at him. Of course not. Layla decided to change the subject. So what did you do today? Taylor paused to think. Today, I trained, and then I trained. Suddenly, Layla glanced over and asked, And you like that? She grumbled, clarifying. I mean, you find training fun? Taylor scratched his cheek and nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, of course. But that just got him even more fired up to talk. On top of that, he said, My lady, do you have any idea how strong Sauron is? I just saw a few soldiers sparring with him, but honestly, those guys were no match for him at all. Layla, feeling miserable, wasn't really paying attention, I'd imagine so. Both Sauron and Sir Taylor are so important, and I'm just weak and useless. So pathetic. She silently berated herself. Taylor vaguely sensed something was off. Lady Layla. He reached out to feel her forehead, then compared it to his own. Then he asked with concern, Are you not feeling well? You don't have a fever. Are you just sleepy? Layla tried to deflect, pushing his hand away. No, I'm fine. I guess I'm just a little hungry, that's all. Taylor frowned. Huh? Hungry? Saying that, Layla used it as an excuse to leave. I should go get something to eat now. You should get some rest too, Sir Taylor. Taylor knew something was wrong, but he didn't know what to say. Okay. He put his hands on his hips, watching her lonely figure walk away. Is something wrong with her? That's not how you act when you're just hungry. Finally, she stopped in an alcove, panting, afraid he had followed her. Sir Taylor is only ever sharp at times like this. I really didn't want him to worry about me. But why am I so out of breath? I didn't even run. I just walked a little faster than usual. I guess my stamina has really gone down. Just then, a nearby gardener appeared. Are you all right, Miss Layla? He smiled and introduced himself. I'm the gardener, if you need any help. Layla suddenly grabbed onto this lifeline. I do. I want to learn gardening, not just as a hobby, but enough to actually become a gardener. The moment the words left her mouth, she squeezed her eyes shut, not daring to look at his reaction. Was that too sudden? That didn't sound like someone asking for help at all. Am I going to be rejected again? But to her surprise, he just casually nodded. All right. When can you start? Layla's eyes welled up with emotion. Really? Tomorrow. Let's start tomorrow. He nodded, holding up a finger. Just let me know. I'll teach you how to landscape the garden tomorrow then. Layla nodded over and over, her face beaming with joy. Okay, thank you. That evening, at the Marquis's residence, in the study, the Marquis loosened his tie and walked in. Crazy Kid stood to the side and greeted him respectfully. Was your trip to Guangzhou good, father? His eyes narrowed as he immediately turned to criticize his son. You look so calm, as if you have no idea what you've done, do you? He slammed the table. At dawn, the palace soldiers will come to arrest you. But the boy showed no fear at all. What are you talking about, father? What crime have I committed? But the Marquis had the evidence in hand and exposed him directly. 5 years ago, you were the one who killed that hero, weren't you? The boy's face hardened in disbelief. Was that guy really the hero? They say they looked very similar, could it be? The Marquis, Chain, said as he motioned to draw his sword. How could an idiot like you kill the hero without even knowing it? Crazy Kid broke out in a cold sweat and yelled, Are you insane, father? Over that slave you would? But blood immediately splattered onto his face as his father collapsed in front of him. With that, he revealed an escape plan for him. I'm not letting you go. You stabbed me and fled. Now run, Kid Diamond. Kid Diamond. At the Duke's mansion, Sane gave Layla some careful instructions before he left. Please wait for me a little while, I won't be long. She smiled to ease his worries. What could possibly happen to me here? You're the one who needs to be careful on your journey. Just from her few words of comfort, his face flushed red. After getting shy, Sion spurred his horse forward. I'm leaving now, but I'll be back. Layla stood behind him, dazed for a moment. Why did his face suddenly get so red? Is it because it's too hot? Taylor cheerfully bid Sion farewell, travel safely, your grace. Have a safe trip, but Sion didn't respond at all, leaving Taylor stunned. Why won't he even return my greeting? Just say you'll be back soon. After the Duke left without a word, Taylor put his handkerchief away, stretching it in frustration. What a jerk! That's when she looked in surprise at his strange handkerchief. What's with that handkerchief? You didn't have anything like that on you before. He just went, ah, and told her about yesterday. Ah, I got it during training yesterday. A maid named Benny gave it to me. Layla immediately gave him a scrutinizing look. Oh, it must be nice to be so popular. But Taylor casually shook his head. It's not like that at all. She messed up the embroidery and was going to throw it away, so she just gave it to me. But Layla didn't believe him one bit. Still determined to see for herself, she said, let me see. She inspected the handkerchief, but this embroidery is perfect. But he didn't seem to care much. Maybe to you, my lady, but not to that maid, Benny. She glanced at him with a frown. Are you looking down on me? But he shook his head and explained. Not at all, it's the truth. Layla examined it carefully before handing the handkerchief back. Still, you shouldn't be so clueless about a girl's feelings, you know? Taylor glanced over, muttering. The way you say that, one might think you're an expert on men's feelings, my lady. Layla huffed and turned away. I can tell just by looking at his eyes, you know. Isn't it obvious? Taylor burst out laughing at that. Really? But how? For 15 years and you still haven't made any progress at all? The more he teased, the angrier she got, grumbling. What are you even talking about? Taylor shook his head, but a smile played on his lips. Oh, it's nothing. I just don't know who's the one with the problem here. She frowned and snapped. What problem? Suddenly, the gardener appeared and greeted her. Miss Layla, you're here. Yes, sir. He walked over, scratching his head awkwardly, and asked, could we start the lesson now? I forgot I have something urgent to do this afternoon. Layla nodded eagerly. Of course we can. Let's go, teacher. Taylor's eyes widened, not understanding a thing. My lady, what lesson? And teacher? She tilted her chin up, clearing her throat mysteriously. It is what it is. I'll tell you when the time is right. With that, she said goodbye to Taylor and left with the man. Well then, I'll be going now, Mr. Taylor. Yes, I understand. Taylor quickly became suspicious of everyone. Things have been a bit strange lately. Night fell. Inside a stone cave, a snake was slithering across the ground when suddenly a sword pierced straight through its back. Then, he took a bite out of the snake, cursing himself internally. Damn it all. The one and only heir to the House of the Chains, and I'm forced to endure this kind of monstrous situation. Gideon was on the run, hiding. The king will hunt you to the ends of the earth. He said that if you remained alive, the entire kingdom would surely disappear. He furiously swung his arm. Who says I'm going to die? Gideon's eyes turned grim as he thought. The soldiers move in groups of about 30. It must have cost them more than 20 men to get this far. I can cross the border within the next 4 days, as long as no more soldiers show up. Once I'm across the border, this chase will end soon enough. Then when things have calmed down a bit, I can create a new identity and build my power. And after that, I will definitely return and end that life with my own hands. Suddenly, there was a noise outside the cave entrance. Gideon's heart leaped into his throat, his hand tightening on the sword as he peered outside. Who's there? If it's just one person, it's not a soldier. In that case, the man stepped further inside. Gideon smirked, recognizing a familiar face. Ha, it really is you, you despicable slave bastard. Sion slowly walked in and responded. Did you keep the promise you made? His eyes swept over him, as if checking that she was unharmed. He covered his face and let out a deep, contemptuous laugh. I was just wondering what you were talking about. Did you really believe I would keep a promise to someone like you? The only reason she's safe is because she is my fiancée, the fiancé of this Gideon of the Chains, because she is the one who will become my wife. Gideon's gaze hardened, disgusting green veins popping around his eyes. It wasn't because of some promise to a thing like you. But Sion couldn't care less about the rambling nonsense that followed. Whatever, that's fine. In any case, the truth is that Layla is still safe. At that, a small smile crept onto Gideon's face. To think I've fallen this far. Being threatened by a lowly slave, he raised his sword and pointed it straight at Sion. I don't know what luck brought you back to life. But it doesn't matter. No matter how many times you come back, I'll just run this sword through your heart and be done with it. Sion wasn't intimidated by Gideon. Try it. But Gideon was trembling, but still forced a laugh to curse the madman. Do you think death is so trivial just because you came back to life once? He turned, ready to step in, his sword already raised. If you want such a pathetic death, then so be it. Suddenly, his eyes widened in shock. Under the shirt was a bulletproof vest. What? The sword? Sauron's eyes narrowed, the corners of his lips curling into a cold smirk. Fool, if you were king, this kingdom would have collapsed long ago. Using only his bare hands, Sauron choked Gideon directly, making him struggle in pain like a mere mortal. Sauron's gaze was as sharp as a blade as he stared at his opponent, threatening, "See that small stream behind you? But at a glance, it looks pretty deep." He struggled on the ground, trying to break free. Let go." Blood dripped onto the water's surface as Sauron threatened in a stern voice. "If you want to live, then start living like you mean it, or live in regret. Otherwise, your death won't matter." With that, he dropped Gideon straight into the water, flowing swiftly behind them. Goodbye, finally. The water grew still, reflecting his silent figure. Now, it's all over. Outside, the sun began to shine brightly, and Sauron turned to leave the cave. "I'll be back soon. I miss you, Layla." But when he returned, he felt something strange was hanging in the air. "Why does it seem like you're avoiding me?" After that, Sauron ran at full speed, just hoping for a word from Layla, asking if he was back yet. But Layla didn't even show her face outside the entire day, let alone come to see him. To be more precise, she stayed in her room, not taking a single step out, so Taylor had to step in and mediate. "How long do you plan on being like this, Lady Layla?" She was huddled under the covers, refusing to see anyone, until it's all healed. He grumbled, calling her bluff. "About a month then?" Lying in bed, Layla shook her head vigorously. "It won't take a month. The doctor said it would take about 3 weeks. Taylor grew furious and yanked the blanket. "Get out of there. Lying in bed all day won't help you get better." Layla weakly pulled the blanket back. "But the doctor told me I need to rest." "So give me back the blanket," he yelled. "Stop lying. Please." Taylor could see right through her. "My lady, did you really think I wouldn't know? You're doing this because you don't want Sauron to find out you're hurt, aren't you?" Layla's heart jumped into her throat. "How did you know?" At the mention of it, he clutched his head and sighed deeply. "Ha, I should have stopped you then and asked what happened. I really should have. I never thought it would come to this." Layla pulled the blanket to her chest, comforting herself. "And Taylor, it will be better in 3 weeks. It's no big deal." Seeing his lady shrink back, he sighed. "So you're really going to lie in bed for 3 whole weeks?" she mumbled in reply. "Not really. Yes." At this, Taylor seemed to have an idea and turned to leave. Before Taylor left, he asked, "So there's no way I can get you out of that bed, is there?" She even called out to remind him, "I will take care of it, so please keep it a secret for me during this time. Don't come here until I call you, okay?" He nodded with a silky voice. Yes, I get it." But just as he reached the door, he suddenly stopped. "Ah, my lady." Taylor's smile was cunning and teasing. "I would bet my entire month's salary that you will be found out within 3 days." This time, it drove Layla absolutely mad. She threw a pillow forward with a shout. "Get out now! What am I really supposed to do?" Layla looked at her bandaged arm and sighed. "It's not like I fell from some crazy high ladder. I have to stay like this for 3 whole weeks. No, on top of that, Chi was punished just because of me. It will be hard for him to avoid getting his pay docked." She knew it. This time she truly felt like a burden. "It's no different from me just being stubborn all the time. That is why everyone feels so pressured. If something happens, I am not the only one who gets hurt in the end. If I were them, I would stay away too." Because it is so annoying and troublesome when something happens, Layla's heart sank with frustration. "Now there is really nothing I can do. This is so depressing." After a few seconds of moping, Layla composed herself. "To think I am having such weak thoughts. Snap out of it. It is better to tough it out a little than to let Saren find out." With that, the very next second, she went to meet the butler. "Carrick, can you please keep my injury a secret from Saren?" He agreed respectfully. "If that is your wish, I will not report this matter to him, Miss Layla." "But is there a particular reason?" She stammered as she made up a reason. "Well, because if Saren finds out, he would probably worry a lot." He asked again, a bit surprised. "If it is about worrying, then Taylor has been worrying about you all day too?" But at this point, Layla did not know how to explain it. I guess there is just a difference." In the end, he left with a completely bewildered expression. That evening, Layla left her room lost in thought, but on second thought, I am not so sure anymore. What is the difference between Mr. Taylor and Saren anyway? Mr. Taylor or Saren? Maybe the way they care is different? But suddenly, a thought popped into Layla's head. What? Mr. Taylor treats me like a little sister, just like how he tried to snatch the blanket from me earlier. Compared to that, Saren. Thinking of him, she felt a bit uncertain. How does Saren feel about me? Judging by how he is with his sister Cecile, it does not seem like he thinks of me as a sister at all. And does he not treat me more gently? Her cheeks began to faintly blush. Why is that, if he treasures his family so much? Then why is he like this with me? But she quickly pushed the thought aside. No, right now I have to focus on not getting discovered for being injured. Okay, if I keep wandering around aimlessly like this, I probably will not even notice. even if Saren is right beside me. Layla! She stopped in her tracks, stunned, and right there in front of her was him. Saren! Layla spun around in a panic, hiding her injured arm. You must be tired. What are you still doing up at this hour? I am sorry I could not greet you today. Something urgent came up. You. Sion's eyes filled with worry as he softly said, Your hand, let me see it. But that just made Layla try to escape. Whoa, I'm suddenly so sleepy. I'll head inside first. Sion pleaded tearfully. Please. Layla gently shook her head, refusing. It's nothing, really. The doctor said I'll be fine soon. The moment she turned away, he reached out and touched her heavily bandaged arm, his heart aching. How did you get hurt this badly? It's just, well? Sion stared at Layla, worried. You don't want to tell me? Finally, his gaze broke through her defenses, and she mumbled, While I was pruning the garden trees. He was stunned. You were pruning them yourself? Do you like to garden? Layla shyly scratched her ear. Not really, but I thought I could handle it. The gardener also thought it wouldn't hurt. Sion seemed a little shocked. What are you talking about, Layla? Are you that bored? Is it because I was out for too long? Layla shyly pulled her hand back and made an excuse. That's not it. I just have to do something. She took a step back, answering shyly, I can't just keep staying here as a guest forever. A stunned Sion quickly interrupted her. A guest? Who told you that? He quickly explained. Layla, you don't have to do anything here out of a sense of duty. Of course, unless it's something you want to do. But at this, she berated herself. Then doesn't that just make me useless? She looked down at herself, flustered. What am I now? I'm not the young lady of the Marquisate anymore. I'm nothing. How much longer can a nobody like me stay here? I want to stay here for a long, long time if possible. Sion was left speechless by her tangled thoughts, as tears streamed endlessly down her face. Forever by your side, Sion. Layla quickly composed herself, gently wiping her tears before shyly running to her room. I'm going inside now. Sion watched her go with a worried gaze. Layla, this can't be happening, she thought to herself. Sion has saved me so many times, but he's so handsome he could make anyone's heart flutter. It can't be like that between me and Sion. Count Kiter's estate. What brings you here? Cecily teased. Did you have a nightmare last night and come running to your dear older sister? Yes. He always came to her when he was in trouble. It's about Layla. I want to give her a title. Is there a way? Cecily snapped furiously. You're not even going to answer my question and just ask another one, Sion? Startled, he scooted over to the edge of his chair. If you want an answer, ask a more meaningful question. Then she regained her elegant composure. Granting a title is easy. If you go to the king and ask him, I'm sure it'll be granted. Or you could just buy one from some destitute noble. He racked his brain. How much would that take? But Cecily was suddenly surprised, wondering more than anything else why. You suddenly want to give her a title? Is it that much of a problem that Layla isn't a noble anymore? Remembering what happened yesterday, Sion sighed. It's not that. The thing is, yesterday, Layla, he told her everything that happened the day before. Cecily was lost in thought for a moment. So Layla said that? So that's why you were thinking about giving Layla a title and making her your vassal? If that's what Layla wants, she nodded. It's not a bad idea. But I just thought of a much better way. What is it? Marriage. Seeing he still had a clueless look on his face, she slowly explained in greater detail. I'm a prime example, you know. Through marriage, I became a countess. Yet Sion naively thought, do you mean you want me to find a fiancé for Layla? Making Celis feel both excited and amused. Oh, what a waste for me to be the only one to see this spectacle. If a demon spirit appeared here right now, I bet he could defeat it in a single blow. Sion probably has no idea what kind of face he's making right now, does he? But with her next words, Celis decided to tease him properly. There's no need for that, since I already have someone I want to introduce to her. He was so startled that he trembled. What? You already have someone? Sion then tried to calm himself down. After all, it was only natural that, if it's someone you're introducing, he must be a very good person. But still, could you let me meet him? She gave a sharp nod. Of course you can. I can introduce you to him. Right this very moment. Sion glanced around absent-mindedly. Is he here right now? And yet Sion was still too clueless to get the hint. That's right, he's right here. Here? Where exactly? Celis sighed and pointed directly at him. The fiancé I want to introduce to Layla is you, Sion. Me? With Layla? She nodded furiously, thinking it was actually a great idea. Isn't it a great idea? The Duchess of Axit is a much higher position than a vassal of the Duke of Axit. Hearing her suggestion, he frowned and replied, No, I can't. I could never do such a thing. Why can't you? I thought you liked her, or is it that you don't want to marry Layla? Hearing her question, Sion avoided her gaze as he explained, An unworthy person. How could someone like me possibly be with Layla? Celis got angry, able to say only one thing. Sion, you're truly cruel. Confusing him, he asked, What? Celis continued, I understand how you feel more than anyone else, but even so, isn't what Layla has done enough? Is she still Layla Hildegard now? The Hildegard family vanished from the kingdom, and that was Layla's doing. With her own 2 hands, she erased her own family, even risking her own life to do it. But suddenly, Celis's expression hardened. But are you trying to say Layla isn't worthy of you? That's right, I said some horrible things to Layla too. But he waved his hand to interrupt. Wait, Cecile, what are you talking about? Celis scoffed coldly. You still don't get it? In my eyes, Layla is more than qualified to become the Duchess of Axit. So you. But Sion just shook his head in denial. I'm the one who isn't worthy. What do you mean? Cecile, you probably don't know this, but I've done something wrong to Layla. He let out a soft, tragic smile. The only thing I can do is protect Layla. Celis was stunned, silent for a moment. Those words you said at the Marquis' estate back then, you didn't say them because Layla was the Marquis' daughter, but from that moment on. Sion gave a small smile. That's right. She instantly became worried and questioned him rapidly. What in the world did you do wrong? Can you tell me? No? Cecile's voice hesitated before she continued to ask. Well then, does Layla know you've done something wrong? You know you have, right? Hearing this, a dozen thoughts ran through her mind. What the heck? It's absurd that the victim himself doesn't know anything, but then again, it's clear Layla doesn't either. She has feelings for Sion, so do I just have to sigh and watch Sion suffer while those two keep denying it? And here everyone else is betting on when those two will finally start dating, and he's my little brother too. Finally, Celis made up her mind. This won't do, Sion. You're staying the night here. Sion looked utterly bewildered. Why? Celis replied, I'll go back with you, and take the chance to tour the ducal estate. We can't leave right away in this situation. How about tomorrow morning? But Sion refused immediately without a second thought. Then maybe next time. This made her anger flare up. If you thought it was a bother, you should have just invited me sooner. Am I your only family, someone you're trying to make sad? You even wrote such a half-hearted letter. Sion, getting an earful, could only mumble, I'm sorry. I know, it's just that I've been so busy. She swallowed her anger. All right, then let's go together tomorrow morning. Inside, Celis grumbled angrily, You'll thank me for this later, you silly little brother. A moment later, the two of them met up with Kaido. He immediately agreed to the trip. Haha, of course it's fine. After all, it's an invitation from my wife's dear brother. He's also the hero who saved the world. Is there any reason to object? Sion also nodded and smiled. I suppose that's true. But right after that, Kaido turned to whisper sweet nothings to his wife, leaving a certain lonely heart to watch quietly from the side. Of course, the nights without you will be so empty for me. Celis smiled brightly. I'll be back soon, so please try to wait for me. Just then, he suddenly remembered. By the way, you must be very tired, right? We've kept you for quite a while. Should I have someone prepare a simple dessert? It's also fine if you want to get up and leave first. Please, feel free. Sion asked to be excused and staggered away, then I'll be taking my leave. I'd like to take a short walk and then rest. Before he left, the lovey-dovey couple didn't forget to remind him. You can use the same bedroom as last time to rest. Have a good night. In the back garden, Sion smiled faintly. I'm glad Celis is doing well. I'm not really sure, but I guess that's what being a married couple is like. Those two words struck him right in the heart. A married couple. Just as Celis said, if I marry Layla, Layla would have to force a smile in front of others for the rest of her life, with a man who has died and come back to life so many times. Again and again. The more Sion thought about it, the more he didn't want that to happen. Indeed, it just can't be. I can't be that greedy. Celis only said that because she doesn't know anything. Besides, she's been pestering me this whole time. He quickly noticed a stranger hiding behind a tree. Who's there? Do you have some business with me? Just then, Dan Lai, having been discovered, slowly stepped out with a chuckle. Ah, my apologies. I came to see His Grace, the Duke, but you seem to be deep in thought, so I waited for a moment. He bowed before him and continued, Allow me to introduce myself. I am Dan Li, a wizard from the Count's family. A wizard? Recalling what he heard from Layla, it seemed that back then, Celis had sent a wizard, and boom, a giant fireball appeared. You're the sorcerer who saved Layla, right? You're smiling even more brightly now, so I guess Lady Layla has mentioned me. It's an honor to be remembered by her. Yes. Sion smiled and thanked him once more. My apologies for this belated thank you. It's thanks to you that Layla's life was saved, but Daly completely brushed it off. Haha, it was nothing. I was only following the Countess's orders. Actually, what I wanted to talk about is also related to her, Lady Layla. After going through such a major ordeal, I've been worried about how she's doing. Sion nodded and replied casually, She had some pain in her wrist recently, but she's fine now. But may I ask you something? He nodded immediately. Of course, Your Grace. Sion narrowed his eyes, asking in a suspicious tone, I heard that while Layla was here, there was nothing to be concerned about. So for you to seek me out in the middle of the night just to ask about her? Could it be that you have an interest in her? Daly's heart leaped into his throat. Huh? He scrambled to explain. That's not it at all. It's not that I'm interested, I'm just genuinely worried about her as a fellow human being. Ah, please don't misunderstand, Your Grace. Sion propped his chin on his hand, looking unconvinced. Is that so? He could only try to explain and beat a hasty retreat. Phew, I've taken up too much of your time, Your Grace. I swear on my entire family's honor that I do not harbor a single romantic feeling for Lady Layla. I shall take my leave now. Very well. Finally, he glanced at the bright night sky and mused. He's a sorcerer with a very strange aura. To blurt out a vow on his family's honor like that, he certainly has a very different feel compared to the sorcerer from that time. But he'd better keep that in mind, Sorcerer Daly. The next day, as soon as her carriage arrived at the mansion, Cecile called out excitedly, I'm here, Layla. Standing at the top of the stairs, she stared down in bewilderment at the lady below, unable to hide her surprise. Lady Cecile, it's been so long. Is this really our first time meeting in 2 weeks? Yes. The moment they met, Cecile suggested they speak privately. Let's take a walk, we can talk alone for a bit. She immediately nodded in agreement. Yes, of course. After only a few steps, she cut right to the chase. I'll be blunt. Do you want to spend the rest of your life with Sion? The shocking question left Layla stunned. She immediately tried to deflect. Why would you suddenly ask something like that? Cecile chuckled to herself, thinking, she's cute in a way that's completely different from Sion, huh? Then she brought up an old conversation. I remember what you said before. You said you were crazy, right? So, is that still the case? Layla's face turned beet red as she shyly admitted, Yes, I think I still feel that way. Cecile smiled, just as she'd expected. She leaned forward with a nod, ready to give these two clueless souls a push. Good, then let's talk about this. Do you want to do something really crazy? She looked baffled, not understanding Cecile's intent. Do something crazy? Cecile gently patted her head. Layla, you have to help Sion. At that moment, Layla excitedly ran down the hall, and as she opened the door, her whole body, everyone was on edge, and he was discussing matters with the butler when she burst in frantically. Layla, she realized it was a bad time, and awkwardly started to close the door. Ah, I'm sorry. I'll just come back later. Yes, but the butler quickly understood the situation. It's quite all right, Miss Layla. I was just about to leave after finishing my report. Isn't that right, Your Grace? He nodded in confirmation that it was. Butler Carrick gently pushed up his glasses. I will take my leave now. All right. She also bowed cheerfully. Thank you, Mr. Carrick. The two of them sat down on the sofa in the room. He asked her gently, should I have someone prepare tea? Layla immediately shook her head. No, there's no need. I'm fine. I just had some with Cecile. Why did she bring that up? She seems a bit distracted. But what is it? Why do you seem so rushed? At the mention of this, she turned as if to interrogate him. Don't you have anything to tell me? You said you have to get married. What? Her hands clenched into fists as she recounted. I heard it from Cecile. You suddenly became a duke, and all the nobles in the capital are unhappy about it. You're the hero who saved the entire world, and now they're being this ungrateful. Sion didn't know what to say. I could only remain silent and let her finish. So to appease that dissatisfaction, the king wants to marry his sister to you. Upon hearing this, Sion began to understand. So you're saying that because the nobles here are unhappy that I was granted the title, the king is forcing me to marry his sister? Is that exactly what Cecile told you? Layla nodded, confirming those were the exact words. So marry me. His jaw dropped in astonishment. But Layla had a perfect plan and explanation ready. Look, if you marry me, then even if it's the king, wouldn't he have to give up on that idea? Because you can't force a married man to do it again. Her hands gripped the hem of her dress, trying to stay calm. Cecile said that if that happens, you'll have to live under the constant watch of the king for the rest of your life. That's not fair at all. Sion buried his face in his hands. Where is Cecile now? She already went back. Sion's eye twitched. How could Layla be so naive as to believe her? Since it was urgent, she just stopped by for a moment to tell me in person. After hearing this, Sion could only hang his head and sigh. Good grief. Seeing him look so dejected, she added as if to comfort him. Ah. Of course, I don't mean we have to live like a real married couple. To be specific, it would be a fake marriage. Or just a marriage contract. We'll just pretend to be a couple until the king gives up on his plan. If you find someone you genuinely want to marry, then at that point. But he took her injured arm and asked, does it still hurt a lot? Layla immediately pulled her arm back, laughing awkwardly. Maybe a little? But I'm much better now. It wasn't an injury to the bone or anything. After Sion let out a sharp sigh, he glanced at her with a fond expression. You're hurt like this and you still want to do something? Her lips quivered a few times. Layla finally nodded in confirmation. I want to do something. I have to. He also fell silent, as if lost in deep thought of his own. Layla clasped her hands to her chest, eagerly awaiting his answer. Silence. He finally came to a decision. All right, let's get married. Not long after the news of the Duke's wedding, Axith was announced. Distinguished guests arrived at the ducal estate. Mary, along with Mason, Wyndham, and Elvin. The four of them made a special trip to visit Layla. I'm so glad to see you're well, my lady, Wyndham said emotionally. I thought everything would be fine since Sir Taylor was with you, but I was worried we might never see you again. The others chimed in as well. I was so surprised to receive your letter, Layla replied apologetically. I'm sorry. I had my reasons for not being able to contact you all. The others lowered their heads in embarrassment. We're truly sorry. We weren't able to help you, my lady, when you needed it most. I'm so ashamed I can't even look at you. Lady Mary also propped her chin on her hand and let out a long sigh. Please send my apologies to Sir Taylor, too, for placing such a heavy burden on him. Speaking of Taylor, she became even more curious. By the way, I have a question. Did you all know that Sir Taylor has become a knight for Duke Axith? Wyndham nodded and replied, Yes, you mentioned it in your letter. So Layla added, If you wouldn't mind, would you all consider moving here like Sir Taylor did, please? But Sir Taylor hasn't exactly moved in. This statement left everyone stunned. What? She giggled and continued, Of course, I'm not forcing any of you. It's completely up to you. I think I can provide a salary and the best working conditions possible. Hearing this, Wyndham excitedly agreed right away. I am completely on board. Deciding so quickly? He propped his chin on his hand thinking, to be able to serve my lady once more would be an honor. But isn't this also a chance to be near a hero who saved the world? Even if you stretched the truth a bit and said I wouldn't get paid, I would still do it. Mary also wanted to return to her lady's side. Besides, I was planning on moving soon anyway. In that case, could I be your personal maid? Layla had no reason to refuse. Of course. All right, and what about you, Elvin? He mumbled to himself. I wonder if that would be too difficult for me. This started to worry Layla. What are you talking about? But Elvin just scratched his head and chuckled. I know the ducal estate already has a doctor. I can't have someone get fired because of me. She quickly brushed aside his concern with a wave of her hand. Ah, don't worry about that. Layla explained the situation. The current doctor already told me that he wants to retire. I believe he wants to return to his hometown and open a private practice. Really? Layla truly hoped they could all be together here. Then I guess Elvin will be moving in too, right? With his concerns addressed, Elvin smiled and agreed. Yes, I'll get everything settled. Before the wedding ceremony, Mary smiled happily. I'm so glad we're all gathered here together. My lady, but is it really all right for me to still call you that? Wyndham began to tease her. Aren't you about to become the Duchess of Axith? Shouldn't I be calling you the future Duchess? Layla shook her head and shrugged. That's still a long way off, Wyndham. Suddenly Mary had a bold thought. By the way, the Duke of Axith, I heard he has blonde hair and black eyes. Don't tell me that Mason. Could he be? Layla was the one to confirm the rumor. That's right. The Duke of Axith is Saul. Everyone was astonished, their eyes all turning to her. What? Really? Apprentice Gilmore nodded knowingly. Just as I suspected, so someone did kidnap the saint after all. Elvin also chimed in. I didn't think the saint could die so easily, because I know the saint's body better than anyone. The next second, he quickly explained. Ah, please don't misunderstand or worry, no matter what the past was like. I promise to serve the Duke with all my heart. Yes, everyone smiled and praised Apprentice Wyndham. It's true, he was praising the Duke for the entire trip. It's thanks to the Duke that we're all living so well. Layla, reunited with familiar faces again, couldn't hide her happiness. Mary, Wyndham, Elvin, and Mason too. Welcome everyone, I'll be in your care from now on. The light inside the room was still on. Time flies so fast. Your wedding is already tomorrow. Mary, who was attending to her lady, felt a shared sense of joy. Who would have thought you two would get married like this? But I had a feeling that you both liked each other. She served Layla some tea. The wedding is tomorrow. Are you still feeling shy? Would you like some more tea? This is a special kind that helps reduce swelling. Haha, I understand. It's all right. I don't need any. Mary suddenly grew emotional, as if her own daughter were getting married and moving far away. Our Lady Layla is still so beautiful and kind. Layla burst out laughing. I'm not a child anymore. What is this? The maid gazed at her lady, a bittersweet look in her eyes. Because you've faced so many hardships since you were young, from now on, you must only be happy because you've met the one you love. These words left Layla speechless. Huh, love? She dazedly sank into her own thoughts. My lady, please have a good night then. That night, Layla tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Do I love Saul? Why would Mary say such a strange thing right before the wedding? She buried her face in her blanket, hiding her embarrassment. The one I love? What nonsense? That's impossible. Saul killed me 3 times. Then again, he also saved me 3 times. So if Saul saves me just one more time. But she suddenly blanked. What do I mean, save me? Those harsh words from back then began to resurface. Whose child is she? No matter what I think, Saul and I. Even if Saul and Cecile don't hate me, it seems Hindaga did something to our families, didn't they? Because nothing has changed since the moment I was born. Finally, Layla told herself, forget it, I need to sleep. I'm just thinking about pointless things. The morning that felt like it would never come arrived. Saul's and my wedding was held outdoors on the grounds of the ducal estate, with more guests in attendance than expected. Because there weren't enough seats, some people had to stand for the ceremony. At last, it began. I still couldn't get over the anxious thoughts and feelings from the night before. That is, until I heard Sion's voice and snapped out of it. When it was time to exchange rings, he slowly placed the diamond on her ring finger, then he whispered gently in her ear, "It's going to be okay, Layla. Don't worry about a thing. Because no matter what happens in the future, I will protect you." Just the deep, warm sound of his voice and Sion's gentle smile made all my worries and anxieties disappear. Even if Sion never saved me again, everything would be all right. Overcome with happiness, Layla whispered her thanks. "Thank you, Sion." "No, perhaps," the high priest's voice echoed throughout the entire duchy, in front of everyone gathered here to witness, as he declared, "You are now husband and wife." It was only then that she finally admitted to herself that she liked Sion this much. By the fountain, more and more tables laden with refreshments appeared. After the main ceremony, the reception was held right away. Most of the guests were aristocrats, who were there to build connections with Sion, but a few people occasionally came to greet me. Mrs. Alice Liam, formerly Lady Donovan, was one of the few guests I had invited. She mentioned that she had recently started learning sculpting. "These calluses look pretty cool, don't they?" And then there were Taylor's friends and so-called enemies, the ones who helped us escape the dungeon. I was finally able to meet them and express my gratitude. "What? Why would I? Oh my! We were just doing what we had to." When Sion came to greet them with me, everyone got so flustered that I felt a little guilty. And finally, Cecile and the Count came over to tease Sion for a while before leaving. Their playful banter made things even more lively. "You have to give her a princess carry on your wedding night, right, dear?" "Haha, of course. Now get down, Cecile." After greeting so many people, Sion looked at her with concern. "Layla, are you tired?" She was startled for a moment, then shook her head gently. I'm fine. What's wrong?" Sion looked a bit awkward. "There's someone I need to see. Would you come with me? If you're tired, I can go by myself." But she didn't refuse and linked her arm through his. "Of course I'll come with you." Layla took his hand and pulled him along. "Let's hurry, they must be waiting for you." "Okay, let's go together." As soon as they stepped inside, a priest bowed deeply in greeting. "It is an honor to meet you, Your Grace." She quickly returned the bow. "The honor is mine, Father." Seeing that she remained bowed, the priest didn't dare to straighten up. "Your Grace, you don't have to do that." But she insisted on deferring to him. "Ah, no. You should rise first, Father." How did I manage to make Sion, who was standing right next to me, look so completely dumbfounded? "What are you two doing?" He frowned, stepping into referee. "I'm gonna count to 3, and you'll both stand up straight, okay?" "Yes, I understand, okay." Sion slowly started to count. 1, 2, 3. She slowly began to straighten up. "I'll just go a little slower." Pfft. Layla whipped her head to the side, seeing his shoulders shaking. She let out a displeased huff. "Are you laughing at me?" Sion replied as he turned away. "Of course not." Layla shot him an angry glare. "There it is!" When he turned back around, he was still trying to suppress a smile. Trembling with embarrassment, she scolded him. "Go ahead and laugh. No one is stopping you." As if that was his cue, Sion burst out laughing. Even though she was unhappy, she bit her lip and said nothing, all because he was just too handsome. "I'll let it slide." Just then, Sion finally composed himself. "Now, let's sit down. You are our guest after all, and we have kept you waiting long enough." She grew shy again, wanting to let the priest go first. "Please, have a seat, Father. You two go ahead and sit first." "Ah," Sion chuckled teasingly. "Should I do another countdown?" Layla blushed beet red and finally relented. "Ah, all right already." The priest, also flustered, said, "I will sit right here." As soon as Holly sat down, he began, "Come to think of it, I haven't even properly introduced myself. My name is Holly, and I currently serve the Holy See in the Deo Kingdom." She let out an "Oh, the Deo Kingdom? You must have come a very long way," he replied with a bright smile. "Haha, I was in a bit of a hurry, so it took less than 1 month." Sion crossed his arms, glancing at the priest. "Why come all this way yourself? You could have just sent word through your superiors." Seeing Sion's casual expression, Holly was dumbfounded. "Are you kidding me? How could an item of this value possibly be entrusted to another person?" But he simply shrugged in response. "Well, someone has done it before," Holly frantically tried to explain. "That might be possible if this item could even be priced. But this is an artifact you would have to think twice about selling, even for thousands of gold pieces," Layla asked, bewildered. "An artifact?" Just then, he took it out of his bag. "Ah, here it is." He began to explain slowly and thoroughly. The bracelet was nestled in a luxurious box. This is a bracelet that holds the power of the gods, or more accurately, it embodies the very spiritual energy of the priests. Layla's jaw dropped in amazement. Did the priests bestow a blessing upon this bracelet? Holly shared excitedly. You could say it is much more than a simple blessing. It functions to protect the wearer from all external influences, including magic, as long as the bracelet remains intact. Sion immediately latched onto a key point. And what about detoxification? At the mention of that, the priest coughed awkwardly. As for poison, it can only go as far as detecting toxins. Toxins as well? Sion asked. He was not pleased with this result. It can only detect them? The priest's face fell, his expression awkward and apologetic. My lord, I truly did my best. To make this one item, dozens of priests had to exhaust their spiritual power. Oh Lord, please send replacements for the fallen. Oh Lord, why must you test us like this? He went on to explain earnestly. Furthermore, do you have any idea how valuable an artifact that can detect poison, curses, or magic truly is? If word got out that such an item exists, the wealthy from all over the continent would come flocking to buy it. Sion's expression finally softened, and he glanced over at her. I understand. How many years will this last? Layla held the bracelet in her hand and muttered, the wealthy from all over the continent? Hole tapped his head and sighed. It'll last 15 years at most, provided the madam doesn't go to war. Sion suddenly got curious. What if she does go to war? His face turned grim, looking bewildered. How could the madam possibly go to the battlefield? Anyway, if she were to, Hole said respectfully, then the bracelet could still be used for another 5 years. So, he frowned, and quietly gave the priest a condition. Then don't contact me for the next 5 years, okay? And add a detoxification function too. He's a completely different person from when he's talking to me, I get it. Just then, he wiped away his sweat, sighed, and reminded the new owners of the bracelets, anyway, I hope you both take good care of this protective bracelet carefully. Since it's a gift I made for the madam and you, I was especially meticulous with it. Layla cherished it and nodded. Thank you, sir. I'll take great care of it. Hole even shared with tears in his eyes. By the way, I poured my heart and soul into making it. I used to be much better looking than I am now. Sion immediately retorted, don't put yourself down like that. Your appearance now looks much healthier. But Sion paid no mind to the man's rambling. This is what I had them make for you. Do you want to try it on to see if it fits? Okay. She slowly slipped it onto her wrist. Layla looked at the bracelet with teary eyes, deeply moved. It's a perfect fit. It looks beautiful, Layla. It was a gift from Sion, but she didn't forget to thank the priest too. Thank you, Sion, and thank you so much, Priest Hole. Please send my thanks to the others as well. The man sitting across from her laughed. I'm grateful that you recognize our efforts. Suddenly, a faint light flashed before his eyes. Wait! Sion quickly grabbed her hand to examine it. That light just now. What did that mean? The priest also jumped to his feet anxiously. Madam, are you all right? This is the detection function I mentioned earlier, but why is it going off now? Then, Sion gasped in fear. Layla, are you okay? We need to get to Elvin. No, call Elvin here right now. But at the moment, she didn't feel anything wrong, but I'm fine. Even Hole hadn't expected this to happen. We verified this function countless times. The chance of an error is extremely low. We can't waste any time. Sion quickly stood up. I'm sorry, Layla. Then, before she could even react, he swept her up into his arms. Huh? What the? Ah! Layla's cheeks flushed as she yelled his name, Sion. A second time, the bracelet lit up again, as if signaling something ominous was about to happen. In the infirmary, Layla sat solemnly awaiting the results. As for the examination results, from what I can tell, there doesn't seem to be anything unusual. So Elvin began to pack up his equipment. Layla, still sitting on the bed, frowned. See, I told you I was fine. But Sion wasn't convinced. That's just the result from one person. She immediately frowned. You don't trust Elvin? Sion was still worried. It's not that, I do. But what about Hole? Even Elvin chimed in. That's right. My lady. We can't rest easy with just this. Didn't I say that was just from my perspective? You should see a doctor who specializes in toxicology. The doctor's expression turned serious as he continued. Furthermore, there are certain types of poisons that are difficult for us to detect. I've contacted some of the doctors Elvin recommended, along with a few others I've heard about. You should come back then for another checkup. Layla just thought he was overreacting. I know, Holly is helping too, and it's just a precaution. I've also contacted the High Priest. I have determined with my own power that it is not a curse. But he closed his eyes and thought, perhaps the problem is the bracelet, or it could be some other issue I'm not aware of. But Layla felt like everyone was taking things too seriously. There's no need to go to such lengths. But Holly shook her head, refusing to take it lightly. No, my lady, we must thoroughly investigate the cause of this. Just for a bit, Sion grew even more anxious, giving her all sorts of warnings. So Layla, Don't push yourself too hard. I'm counting on you. She nodded in agreement. I'll try. Don't worry so much. I'm really not bothered by it. So, shall we head back to the banquet hall? We still have to see everyone off, but Sion was a bit reluctant. Are you sure you'll be all right, Layla? To ease his worries, she sought the doctor's confirmation. There isn't any problem right now, is there? Isn't that right, Elvin? He nodded, confirming. I think it will be fine, just as long as you don't do anything too strenuous. But he also gave her a careful warning. Instead, my lady, please don't go anywhere alone if you feel anything unusual. Then please come and see me immediately. With that said, Layla pulled his hand forward. You heard that, right? Let's go. Sion, all right. But in her heart, she wasn't calm at all. Everything will be fine, right? All my worries and Sion's concerns turned out to be for nothing. None of the doctors who came to the ducal estate could find any abnormal signs in my body at all. Yes, all the doctors respectfully gave the same assessment. I have utilized all the knowledge and reagents at my disposal, but they showed no reaction to the Duchess at all. It does not appear to be poisoning, ma'am. Even the final doctor's opinion confirmed it. Except for when I was sleeping, Sion was by my side at all times. Watching me with a worried expression, he'd follow me closely wherever I went. Don't walk so fast, Layla. He nagged about the tiniest things, to the point that Layla had to let out a tired sigh. Sion, I'm really fine, and all the doctors said so too, but Sion shook his head, refusing to agree. We still have to be careful until we can see the high priest. At this point, Layla knew exactly what was going on and decided to blame him. Isn't it because you gave them such a tight deadline that the priests made a mistake? That's why there are a few minor flaws with the bracelet. This time, it was true that Sion was partly at fault. It's true that the time frame was short, but they aren't the type to make mistakes easily. So the rumor she heard wasn't false after all. So was the deadline really that tight? He answered sheepishly. Well, I had no choice but to give it to you on our wedding day. In the end, getting back to the main subject, Sion still couldn't quell his anxiety. In any case, I can't rest easy until it's been thoroughly examined. His voice was filled with love and concern for her. The high priest will be here in a few days, so please try to wait just a little longer, Layla. Then I won't bother you about it anymore. Layla pressed her lips together, her head bowed. Nothing has even happened yet, but why is Sion this worried? Worried about me so much that his brows are furrowed like that? Because of me. She suddenly reached her hand out toward him. You would look better if you did not frown so much. After that, Sion instinctively flinched back, and Layla, feeling awkward, pulled her hand away. The air between them suddenly grew awkward, so she pulled her hand back hesitantly. What is it? I was just brushing off some dust. Were you startled? His face turned red as a tomato as he quickly explained, No, it is not that. To avoid any more awkwardness, she turned and walked away. Ha ha ha, well that is a relief then. But inside she felt dejected and gloomy. I guess he does not like it when I touch him, huh? When I sit next to him, he moves farther away. A few days ago, while we were walking together, his hand brushed against mine for a moment. Ever since then, he started walking behind me, and come to think of it, people usually put a bracelet on for you when they give it as a gift. He said he wanted to give it to me on our wedding day, but why would not he put it on for me himself? But before that, something pretty unexpected happened. When the light shone from the bracelet, he hugged me. He did it because he was worried I would be in pain when we reunited. Was he happy? I really do not know anymore. Suddenly, a hand gently touched her shoulder. Layla? She jumped and turned around. Yes? Sion looked at her worriedly. Are you okay? You seem to be breathing a bit hard. Layla only just then realized it. Oh, I guess I am. I was a little distracted, so I did not even notice. Hearing that, Sion began to panic. This is not good. You need to go inside and rest right now. It is probably just because I'm out of shape. She did not feel any better until she sat down in a chair. Phew. He leaned in close to her face and asked with concern, Are you really all right? Do you usually get this short of breath from walking so much? But Layla honestly did not know either. I am not hurting anywhere. I think it is just a problem with my stamina. But deep down, she felt a kind of suppressed energy, and today, it felt particularly severe. I should feel better now that I'm sitting down, but why do I feel even worse? Maybe it is because my heart is pounding so hard that I feel a little dizzy. Suddenly, Layla flinched, feeling as if something inside her was breaking apart. That is so weird. Why is there a sharp pain in my heart that is shooting straight to my head? She collapsed into his arms and coughed up a mouthful of blood, slowly sinking into unconsciousness as she heard his voice trying to wake her. She could no longer respond. Layla, Sion, Layla. At that moment, her only thought was about him. He is going to worry so much. Seeing her like this for the first time, his eyes filled with tears, unable to believe that she would just right before his very eyes. Layla held up a mirror and stared at her reflection in disgust. I look like I am already dead. Things like this might happen again within the next few days. The more she thought about it, the more terrified she became. What would happen if I actually die? Will the world end when I turn 20? At that moment, a loud thumping sound came from the hallway. Layla, the high priest has arrived. He appeared along with Holly, another priest, and several other people. I am but a humble servant of the Lord, who has long since forgotten his name, so please just call me the High Priest. Sitting weakly on the bed, Layla greeted him. Thank you for traveling so far to come here, he replied with a smile. Whenever the hero here asks for aid, I will come at once, but Sion just wanted to get on with the examination. He cut their greetings short. All right, that is enough. Please begin the examination now. Saying that, he approached the bed and said to her respectfully, My lady, may I touch your hand for a moment? One hand is enough. Yes, she complied and held out her hand. Yes, here you are. The moment his hand grasped hers, his expression grew pensive, his brow furrowed. Layla also pressed her lips together, waiting. Seeing the high priest's expression, Sion quickly asked about the situation. Can you feel anything? His voice was low. As he gave his diagnosis, I think there seems to be something inside the lady's heart. Layla was startled, unconsciously touching her left chest. In my heart? Sion's expression hardened. Do you mean she has a heart condition? But the high priest shook his head. It seems this illness is different from a heart condition. I think I should explain this first. There is something called soul energy that flows through the human body, also known as the spirit of life. It is the power essential for a person to exist. However, the lady's body currently shows no sign of soul energy anymore. The more Sion listened, the more he couldn't believe it. What? The high priest continued. Even though she should have been at death's door, the lady is still alive. Perhaps, I think it's because of that something in her heart that I mentioned earlier. Layla touched her chest, continuing to listen to his explanation. Although the reason is unclear, it seems that thing has also entered a state where it can no longer use its power, so that must be the reason why the lady's health has suddenly deteriorated so much. Layla's shoulders slumped, and she sighed. If that's the case, then I probably don't have much time left, do I? Please, just be honest with me. Tears started to well up in her eyes. Then how much longer do I have to live? I think 6 months. Layla trembled, her hands clenching into fists as if trying to contain her emotions. I see, 6 months. Sion refused to just lose her like this. He would find a way. There had to be some way. Can't we just replenish that soul energy somehow? The high priest shook his head. Not to my knowledge. It's like bringing a person back from the dead. In other words, this is the realm of the divine, not of mortals anymore. However, regarding that thing in the lady's heart I mentioned, if we can find someone who understands its true nature, then we might just be able to learn something. The more he listened, the more he clutched his head in frustration. So what in the world is that thing, really? Even the high priest had never encountered this type of energy before. I'm not entirely certain myself, but I sense a rather strange energy. It is a mysterious power, something akin to sorcery or magic. I don't suppose the lady is a mage or a witch. Have you ever been in contact with people who specialize in these kinds of mysterious affairs? Hearing that, a bold idea began to form in his mind. Dani, from Count Kaito's estate. At that moment in a dark corridor, Cecile was leading the way. Sion, what on earth is going on? Layla is sick, so why are you looking for Dani? He didn't explain the situation, only promising, I'll explain later, Cecile. Right now, I need to see Dani as soon as possible. Her gaze swept over him, her voice laced with suspicion. You're not planning on pulling something here, are you? But in the end, she led Sion to his destination, adding a disclaimer. I don't know anything about it, so you're on your own. This is Danley's research lab, he's usually here. I'm only telling you this because you asked, Sion, but I hope nothing unfortunate happens. But his following words didn't even register as he reached the door and slammed it open. Cecile, who was standing beside him, let out a sharp cry. Inside, the mage Danley was engrossed in a pile of his documents. Duke Axit, he hurriedly stood up. What brings your grace here today? Cecile, following behind, quickly explained. Sion has something he needs to discuss with you. But as he walked up to the mage, he was radiating pure fury. You definitely know something, don't you? Danley just chuckled. I'm not sure what you mean. I don't understand what you're talking about. Instantly, he drew his sword and slashed at Danley's clothes, causing him to break out in a cold sweat. A worried Cecile rushed over, calling out to him, Sion, what are you doing? Her presence didn't deter him in the slightest as he threateningly raised his sword. Tell me why. Why did you ask about Layla's health the other day? He smiled faintly and quickly explained. I was just showing some personal concern, that's all. Yet when you heard Layla had injured her wrist, you had no particular reaction. You deliberately waited for me to ask about her, but you didn't seem concerned in the slightest. But Sion wasn't so easily convinced. Then why were you so bothered about her condition? Were you expecting a different answer from me? What? At this, Cecile frowned and turned to him. Are you suspecting Danley over that? He's the one who helped Layla escape. Just then, Danley suddenly let out a soft laugh. So the Duchess's heart really is the problem, isn't it? Sion's brow furrowed in anger and he scoffed. What's with this guy? Just then, he finally confessed. I had my suspicions, but I thought I needed to see the Duchess myself to be certain. Sion's expression remained cold, but his demeanor had softened considerably. If what you're thinking is true, can you save her? Danley pressed his lips together before answering, there is one way, I'll tell you more, after I can perform a more thorough examination. His arm was still pointing the sword forward, but upon hearing there was a chance to cure Layla, he immediately sheathed his sword. But Sion didn't want to delay any longer, and moved to take him away immediately. We're leaving now, follow me. Before he left, he turned to Cecile. I'm sorry, Cecile. Things are a bit urgent right now, so I'll explain later. But she didn't blame him and tried to comfort him instead. It's okay, Sion. I just hope Layla will be all right. Thank you, Cecile. Sion and Danley headed straight for the ducal estate. The following evening, they arrived at the manor. Upon seeing an old friend, Layla smiled, hiding the pain in her heart. You're back early, Sion? It's been a while, Danley. He stepped forward and bowed cheerfully. Yes, it has been a long time. I wish it were under better circumstances. I heard you haven't been well. Would it be all right if I took a quick look? She nodded slightly and replied, Of course. Having received her permission, Danley placed his hand over her chest to check her condition. Then, please excuse me. A stream of energy immediately radiated from his hand. Danley's expression grew serious as he muttered, He closed his eyes to feel the energy more clearly. This is exactly what I've been looking for. Hearing this, Saul's heart pounded. So, could she be saved? He glanced out the window and gave a slight nod. There is a way, and I will tell you right now, but could you please ask everyone else to leave the room? After everyone had left, Danley slowly began to explain. The thing inside Lady Layla's heart is a stone that the Moon Clan calls the Time Stone. It possesses very special powers and was created a very long time ago by a member of the Moon Clan. When it enters a human body, it completely drains the person's energy. If it finds the body hasn't been destroyed yet, it will take over that body as its vessel while preserving the energy. Then, at the very moment the person's heart stops beating, it uses the energy it has absorbed to reverse time. The Moon Clan calls this property mending the broken vessel, but the problem is, it cannot repeat this act forever. Once the soul energy is completely drained by the Time Stone, the vessel can no longer be mended. Then the Time Stone will prepare to discard the vessel. The mage's voice turned grim as he delivered the final sentence. Soon, Lady Layla's situation will be exactly that. Listening silently, Layla was so frightened that all the color drained from her face. So what's the cure? The mage shrugged. It's simple, he replied, lightly touching his chin. Removing the Time Stone isn't difficult. The problem is that her soul has also been stolen, but that's all right. We just need to replenish it, but I can't do it alone, so I will need help from my clan. But Layla cut him off. Wait a minute, Danley, the high priest, said that soul energy can't be replenished, but you're saying it can be? He nodded and explained. Our clan bears the responsibility for creating the Time Stone, so I want to help those who have been affected by the stone. Over the years, I have researched and found a way. Suddenly, her expression hardened, and she asked in a hushed voice, What I'm curious about is, the soul energy that will fill my body, where will it be taken from? But Danley seemed reluctant to answer, shaking his head. I don't think you necessarily need to know that. But Layla seemed to have a thought. Don't tell me? Seeing her expression, he nodded in agreement. I believe my lady has guessed correctly. The stolen soul energy has been completely used by the stone, so we will need to use the energy of another person. This is our clan's burden, so someone from my family will have to make a sacrifice. All right, my lady doesn't need to worry about that. But Layla couldn't let it go. Someone else's energy? After sharing this useful information, Danley asked, When can we depart? The sooner the better. But she seemed completely dazed, laughing bitterly at herself, which made Saul extremely worried. Layla was breathing heavily, her hand cleverly, hiding the heartbreaking tears. She had just found a way to live, but if she wanted to live, did it have to cost someone else their life? This is truly horrible, she thought, suddenly falling into Saul's arms as she fainted. For the past few days at the mansion, Layla had been in a gloomy, heavy state of mind. After that, Layla ran a high fever for 4 days and showed no signs of waking. It was understood that this was the process of her body slowly giving out. Her functions would activate and she would wake up, but for shorter and shorter periods. Afterwards, Sion asked Danny a lot of questions, while Layla was still unconscious, like how she discovered the way to use the Time Stone and the details of how the Moon Clan recharges a soul's life force. He acted so rushed, as if he expected Sion to return, because he spoke as though he already knew everything. So he started to get suspicious. He knew Layla was the one who had told that story, and began to watch him, and also about how to recharge a soul's energy. He answered in great detail, just as Sion wanted, and then on the 4th day, Layla woke up. Seeing her stir awake, Sion, who had been waiting by her bed for a long time, asked, Layla, are you okay? Sion! He rushed over to help her up. Your fever broke a while ago. How are you feeling? But she glanced at herself, then back at Sion, her voice trembling. I'm still alive? Sion had thoughtfully prepared a glass of water. Drink this first. Thank you, Sion. He stood beside her as if he wanted to say something. After taking a sip of water, Layla was filled with anxiety. You look like you have something to say. Seeing that she had noticed, Sion finally began to speak to her softly. I spoke with Danny while you were unconscious, but now that I know the story behind it, I know you'll still be stubborn about this, Layla. No, I won't do it. I'll just die. But Sion refused to let her give up. How can you just die? I won't let that happen. Layla turned away to hide her sorrow and shouted, Didn't you hear me? Doing that would mean I have to take someone else's life just so I can live. No matter how much I want to live, I would never want that. But Sion shook his head. You're not going to die anyway. You won't die, and no one's life is going to be taken here. She suddenly fell silent as her eyes slowly filled with tears. Sion, don't tell me you. Sion had already accepted it. He gave a small smile as he coaxed her. Take my life, Layla. She screamed frantically. I don't want to. I can't. He tried to explain, to soothe her soul. I'm different from a normal person. Layla, right now I have 2 lives, but Layla wouldn't listen. There must be a reason you have 2 lives, right? What if you have to risk your life again in the future? Are you just going to die for nothing then? His voice grew heavy. That's the idea. Layla froze in horror. What did you say? But right now you're still alive, so you can protect me. But Layla wanted to know the truth buried beneath it all. What do you mean by that? He finally began to explain. I originally intended to die, right after I finished what I had to do. The demonic soul has been sealed, and Hindaga is no longer of this world. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lived this long. Layla couldn't believe it, covering her mouth in horror. You're lying! But Sion's voice was flat as he replied. It's true. And so he knelt before her and begged, Layla, if you want me to live, then you have to live too. Please. She sobbed uncontrollably, unable to accept it. You know, Sion, if I do as you say, it will feel like protecting me is just some duty you have to fulfill. But Sion simply asked back, is that how you feel? Right? This is the truth. It really is. But Layla just doesn't understand. What does protecting me even mean to you? Tell me the reason. If you tell me the truth, I'll accept your life. She bluntly pressured him for the truth. Sion lowered his head, his lips trembling a few times before he could even utter a word. Because right now, Layla's mind was also in turmoil. Was it because of him? Recalling the past, Sion couldn't help but blame himself, because I'm the one who killed you. So no matter what I do, don't ever think that you owe me, because I'm the one who owes you. After that, he abruptly left the room as if to hide the pain in his heart. Get some rest. We're leaving the day after tomorrow. The door slammed shut the moment he stepped out, leaving her with a tangled mess of thoughts. I've spent the whole day thinking about it ever since Sign left. Now I understand everything. How many times he had to die at the hands of those villains and fight against demons. How painful and agonizing must that have been. To have just completed his revenge, only to open his eyes and be right back at the beginning. That feeling. The more Layla thought about it, the more she blamed herself. It's all my fault. I didn't know anything at all. Every time Sign despised me, I just felt so wronged. She covered her mouth in anguish. The pain he had to go through, why am I only understanding it now? The one who was truly wronged here was Sign. He must have endured so much pain, agony, and countless hardships. But why would he say that he's the one who owes me? How could he possibly say that he's alive now just to protect me? In the end, even when night fell, she tossed and turned, unable to sleep. I don't know if it's because I slept for 4 whole days. Now I can't even get a wink of sleep. Is it because I've been thinking about Sion all day? I miss Sion too. Layla wandered down the hallway, eventually stopping in front of a room where the light was still on. What in the world is going on? I should get back quickly. Just then, Sion stepped outside and came face to face with her. What's wrong, Layla? She panicked and quickly shook her head. No, it's nothing at all. But on second thought, Layla mumbled a request. It's just, can you come outside for a second? If this is about accepting my life. But she quickly cut him off. Sion, do you like me? No, wait, how much do you like me? He was startled when she asked something so completely out of the blue. Why all of a sudden? She looked down and continued, I just feel like this is all really strange. Worrying about me, reacting to everything I do, caring way too much like this, and then, why won't you come near me? Her voice grew softer and softer. Besides, you tried to like me, but you couldn't, right? Because the blood of a Hindaga still flows through my veins. So you're disgusted when you get close, is that it? Sion was completely shocked by her unbelievable assumptions, Layla. But Layla's gaze remained steady on him as she spoke her mind. The expression on your face isn't telling me anything. Fine, I get it now. Why do you have to confuse me so much? This time, it was as if Layla had come to him just to confront him. But it was also like she was asking, questioning herself. Why is it that saving me is the same as saving the world and avenging your entire family? Are you that obsessed with the fact that you killed me? And yet you can't be a little selfish for my sake? You've suffered so much because of me. Asterisk asterisk silently bites his lip and sighs, asterisk asterisk. That only happened because I killed you. What if I say I truly don't care? What if I just act as if I don't owe you a single thing? Asterisk asterisk silently clutches his head in denial. Asterisk asterisk. Everything she wanted to say, it still wouldn't mean that what happened would just disappear. But suddenly she reached out to cup his cheeks, and then she stood on her tiptoes and gave him a passionate kiss. Sion was completely stunned by her, his cheeks blushing as red as a ripe tomato. After a long moment, they reluctantly pulled apart. So then, what if I told you that I like you? Sion's entire body began to tremble. He tried to convince Layla, you don't actually like me. Layla was taken aback. What did you just say? Sion refused to believe her feelings. It's just an illusion. Layla repeatedly denied it. No, it's not. He only became more certain. It is. She didn't agree with Sion's perspective. What do you mean it is? She couldn't understand why he kept disagreeing. It's clearly just an illusion. Your desire to live has been mistaken for feelings of affection. Even Layla didn't know what to say. What are you talking about? What in the world has been going on between us anyway? Sion explained gently. Because I've always been the one who could save your life. She froze on the spot. Huh? So you're saying that because of my survival instinct, I'm just imagining that I'm in love with the person who holds my life in his hands? Don't be so ridiculous. Layla became furious. Do I look like some kind of idiot? The one who can save my life? If that's the case, then that psycho Killian Jacques could have saved me too, but I absolutely despise him. The person I like is you. Do you get it? I said I like you, and only you. He took Layla's hand, reminding her, nothing can change that. She found it completely baffling how strangely calm Sion was. It doesn't mean that what happened will just disappear, because right now you're under the delusion that you like me. That's why you can say it doesn't matter, but only for now. Layla began to break down his argument. So you're saying I'm just temporarily confused, and once this moment passes, my feelings will change? The fact that you killed me will pop into my head from time to time, and eventually I'll avoid you? This was exactly what Sion believed. That's right, you'll just end up being afraid of me, like you used to be. She suddenly fell silent, deliberately trying to provoke him. In short, you're just a coward. Sion became flustered. What? She decisively flung his hand away. You're just scared, aren't you? Scared that I say I like you now, but will just push you away later? Sion had his own reasons. It's not like that. I'm just not worthy of you. And you could never be with me either. To you, I'm just a murderer. Layla was a bit surprised. How can you say that? I have nothing to hide. It's the truth. Her tears began to stream down her face. Even if he is a murderer who killed me, the fact that he saved me is also an undeniable truth, even at the cost of his own life. Sion, you idiot. So stubborn, so scared, you big fool. Fine, I'll just follow my heart. She gave Sion a sweet kiss, but he still tried to keep his distance from her. Sion was so embarrassed his cheeks flushed bright red. Not again, Layla. She insisted he felt the same way, and that he should just follow his heart. I'm going to do what I want. I'm leaving now. Sleep well. A sound came from outside the door. Layla gently touched her pink lips. What have I done? I can't believe I just did that. Sion, you're not going to avoid me now, are you? 2 days later, we set off for the land of the Moon Clan. Following Daniel's guidance, I thought Sion was riding ahead on his horse to avoid me, saying it was to patrol the border, but thankfully, that wasn't the case. I felt so relieved. On the way to the Moon Clan's village, whenever no one was around, I would kiss Sion. Once you've crossed the line, what's there to be afraid of anymore? Sion always had a stiff, flustered, and sometimes bewildered expression, but he never once avoided me, and that alone was enough for me. Even if the Moon Clan can't save my life, and I end up dying in vain, I feel like I won't have any regrets. And so, 2 months passed just like that, and we finally arrived at the place called the Moon Clan's village. Everyone was talking during the trip. Is this where the Moon Clan lives? Yes, it is. I did warn you beforehand. I hope you're not leading us to some strange place. Daniel quickly reassured him. I wouldn't dare deceive a hero. It just looks like a snow-covered mountain, but there's a way to open an entrance. That tree. If you chop down that tree once, the hidden door will. The trees were immediately chopped down. Sion finished, and then asked him, that should do it, right? Daniel didn't dare say a word. Right. It seems I don't need to add anything else. Layla was extremely curious. What happens if we chop down those trees? He then revealed the secret. The door leading to the village will open. She couldn't help but be surprised. A door? The door appeared just as Daniel said. Over there. All right, let's go. She was a little hesitant, but still agreed. Okay. Layla felt like she had stepped into another world, and she was full of praise. It's so magical how everything connects like this, Daniel explained with a smile. Our clan doesn't like to interact with outsiders. But Layla thought that wasn't right. Daniel wasn't like that at all. He then commented on himself, I'm a little different, but that doesn't mean we don't welcome outsiders. So don't worry too much. She wasn't entirely convinced. Really? Daniel guaranteed it, of course. He led them to a witch's house. Everyone's here, please confirm. It will open soon. Layla couldn't help but worry. Miraculous things kept happening as we walked along the path, and a village gradually came into view. Can I really be saved? A woman was slowly opening the door, and she looked familiar. Layla trusted her intuition, deep red eyes. I'm sure I've seen those eyes somewhere before. Cyan suddenly grabbed her hand tightly. Layla was pulled behind him in astonishment. She turned and called his name, Cyan. A serious expression appeared on Cyan's face. He must have recognized her right away. Do you have some connection to the witch? Layla only dared to think to herself, I remember now. Dark red hair, and dark red eyes, too. She was like a withered rose come to life, a witch. The witch, Azali's sister, spoke up. Cyan was certain. I heard her name is Asiles. She wasn't surprised, realizing everyone had already met Asiles. You're already making threats? Explain why I can sense the aura of a witch surrounding you. If you don't answer honestly, I will draw my sword. Even Asiles' sister had to admit you have sharp senses. I am Asiles' sister, and we are also twins. Could Asiles be dead? Cyan got straight to the point. She failed. Layla couldn't help but worry. Cyan, are you being a little too honest? This is this woman's village, and for all we know, it could be that witch's village too. If the entire Moon Clan attacks us, will Cyan be able to handle everything? Even if I die, Cyan will be in danger. She nodded. I see. Layla hid behind Cyan, wondering if this was okay. Asiles' sister agreed to host them. Come in. I will lead you to our leader. As we walked through the gate, the village where the Moon Clan lived came into view. Compared to the long journey we took to get here, this was a rather simple and peaceful village. The people of the Moon Clan had deep red eyes, and they all stared at us with great curiosity. She looked embarrassed on behalf of her people. I apologize if this makes you uncomfortable. We have very little interaction with the outside world, so everyone is very curious about what is happening. Most of our clan are born and die right here. Dan Lai was a rare exception. Cyan didn't want to waste any more precious time. I don't care. More importantly, I want to hear about that witch, the woman who almost killed me and Layla. The two of us. Asiles' sister looked sad. I thought that after losing her name, she would live a quiet life. What a pity. He was confused. Losing her name? Asiles lost her Moon Clan name and was exiled from the village about 100 years ago. Layla couldn't believe her ears. 100 years? The sister calmly explained. The lifespan of our clan is about 200 years. She still remembered it clearly. But when we met her, she said that she doesn't age. Asiles' sister didn't directly deny this. That's not entirely wrong. If we don't use our powers, our clan doesn't experience aging until our lifespan is over. Layla had another question. Powers? The sister knew this better than anyone. It refers to the special abilities that each member of the Moon Clan possesses, although they are divided into many different types. Asiles' sister wanted a bit more information. When you met Asiles, about how old did she look? Layla spoke up to confirm. She was about my age, in her early 20s. Now the sister understood. It seems she hasn't used much of her power for the past 100 years. Her question wasn't answered yet. If you use your powers, can you age on the spot? Asiles' sister gave a typical example. If you use more than a certain amount, in a severe case, a young person can age rapidly. Layla finally understood. I see. Dan Lai cheerfully shared. Just so you know, I learned and use regular magic, not the clan's powers. That made her quite curious. Is that even possible? Asiles' sister refuted it. No, normally it wouldn't be feasible, but he's a special case. I'm a genius, so why would I age? I can tell you this, since I think you might be curious. Layla carefully thought it over. Until the moment Asiles fled, her appearance hadn't changed at all. Does that mean she couldn't use any of her powers during that entire time? She was fighting Cyan? She held back her power even when she was injured? What could possibly be the reason? Because it's not a power that's useful in combat. Otherwise, there's only one other way to use it. But Cyan had another thought. If she can change her appearance, could she also be hiding her aging? She was absolutely certain, no, that's impossible. He speculated based on the details just outlined, changing her appearance, controlling people, and not aging despite using her shield ability. Is she hiding a true power that requires a massive amount of energy? And Asiles' sister couldn't be of more help. That's certainly possible, but we don't know what kind of power it's hiding, because unless the user reveals it themselves, no one can ever know. Layla's question made her stop. Why was she kicked out of the village? Asiles' sister answered coldly. She killed people unrelated to the Moon Clan in a single night, more than 50 people. Cyan tried to press for more information. Do you know the reason why she killed them? But Asiles' sister hung her head in sadness. She never said why, right up to the very end. In any case, after committing the crime, Asiles fled the village on her own, which is basically the same as being kicked out. He didn't realize Asiles had been lying. Despite that, she still speaks as if she's part of the clan. This made Asiles' sister suspicious. Could that person even be Azalis? It seems Sion has some important information. If the clan finds out that her true identity has been discovered, she'll be executed by 1,000 cuts before that person even gets a chance to rule the world. About the clan and that person, do you have any speculations? Does anyone in the Moon Clan know about those two? She couldn't provide any more help. I don't know anyone. And probably no one in the clan knows either, especially about that person, because the Moon Clan serves no one, not even the gods. As the two of them entered, the leader was already there, and they were invited in. The door quickly closed, and a voice echoed through the hall. "Welcome. We haven't had visitors in a long time. My name is Idol, and I am the leader of the Moon Clan." The two introduced themselves. "I am Sion Asis, and I am Layla Asis." It wasn't difficult for Idol to recognize Sion Asis. "Could you be the hero?" Sion had nothing to hide. "Yes, that's me." He greeted them warmly. "It's an honor to meet you. Please have a seat while I make some tea." Sion could only agree. "All right." Layla was a little puzzled. "I think this is the first time I've seen an old person in this entire village. What power could he possibly have that he's used it so much? What if they say they can't help because it's connected to saving my life? What more can be done? Am I just supposed to die like this? I really hope not." "Iodo, bring out the good stuff for our guests. This is a tea my family is very fond of, but I'm not sure if the two of you will like it." She replied politely, "Thank you, sir." His words are so cryptic, but I'm glad everything is going smoothly so far. Sion spoke bluntly. "I appreciate your hospitality, but we can't just sit around drinking tea." Layla couldn't stop him in time. "Sion." Iodo didn't scold him, "I understand. The time stone is preparing to abandon her body. I figured it wouldn't be simple, so did you receive some kind of advance notice?" "Not at all. It's not that I have some special ability, it's because my innate power is detection. I have spent my entire life searching for the time stone, and that is the reason I've become so old. And that's how I knew the reason you two came here the moment I saw the lady. One of my clansmen must have led the lady here. There is a way for her to survive." Layla needed to hear it again. "Is that true? Can I really live?" He wasn't afraid in the slightest. "I am willing to give up my second life. So I'd like to proceed as soon as possible." He was already prepared. "The ceremony can take place tomorrow. As you said, the situation is urgent. So let's proceed with the ceremony tomorrow." Sion placed his hand on hers. "Thank goodness, Layla." Layla was moved to tears. "Thank you, Sion." Iodo had a question, however. "You two, could you answer a question for me?" They didn't hesitate, of course. He was certain of one thing. "The time stone the lady possesses is an artifact that was created and guarded by our clan, but one day it suddenly disappeared. My clan was well aware of the dangers of the time stone, so we immediately set out in search of it. As the one with the power of detection I mentioned before, I was assigned to the task. But even after searching the whole world, not a single trace of the time stone could be found. When I returned, I had become an old man. My clan believed it to be impossible. The time stone was kept under tight security, and then it just disappeared. I dedicated my youth to the search, but I couldn't find a single clue about the time stone. Ultimately, we concluded that it must have been divine intervention. Sion didn't believe in supernatural powers. Isn't that a bit of a hasty conclusion? Divine intervention? How convenient. Iodo wasn't finished, you may think that. "I would like you to answer my question, assuming there was divine intervention." He tried to suppress his emotions. "So what is the question?" He posed a difficult question. "For what reason would a divine being want to save Lady Asit? Do you have any idea why that might be?" Even Sion was confused. The reason a god would want to save Layla? As someone experienced in these matters, every action of a divine being has a purpose: to steal something belonging to mortals and hide it away, only to then beg for it to be given to someone? No, I'm just now realizing that what's happening before my very eyes might be exactly that, because there must be some reason to save Lady Asit, even if it means defying the rules. Layla offered a simple explanation. "Sion is a hero, and I'm his precious person. Isn't that enough of a reason?" Like it was some reward for saving the world, he disagreed, saying that was impossible. "God isn't that merciful." She felt guilty. How stupid. "It seems we've been treating the gods pretty badly just now, haven't we?" Iodo instructed them to keep a close eye on Layla. "The important thing is to pay attention to the major changes that will happen if the lady isn't here. I absolutely can't live without her. Without Layla, I would have chosen death myself. So is this what God did to save me?" He became flustered. "You mean before the evil spirit appeared?" Sauron firmly asserted, "No." After that, Iodo seemed to become even more distraught. He really didn't dare to think about it. "Perhaps the world's crisis hasn't ended yet." "Sir?" Sauron didn't understand what Iodo meant. "Is the world's danger really not over? Explain yourself clearly." He began to explain. "The gods believe that this world still needs a hero. So, he saved Lady Axit, because that way the hero would not choose death." Layla couldn't stop thinking, if the gods truly used me to save Sauron, can I at least believe that? I didn't bring Sauron pain? That I myself created a reason for Sauron to continue living? I don't know what to do. Isn't there any way to know what this danger is ahead of time?